There is a quiet truth that many overlook in the noise of longing and the ache of waiting. Love is not something you chase. It is something you become ready to receive. It does not answer to desperation, nor does it respond to masks. Love comes when the soul is ripe. Love comes when you have learned how to be alone without being lonely. Love comes when you no longer need it to complete you. Today, let us walk through 5 eternal truths, 5 inner thresholds, through which love arrives not as a storm, but as a sacred recognition. The soul must be whole before it can truly love, not because perfection is a prerequisite for connection, but because love, in its truest form, is not a remedy for our incompleteness. It is a reflection of our integration. When you approach love from a place of lack, you do not relate, you attach. You grasp, you cling, you project your unmet needs onto another and call it fate. But what you are seeking in the other is often the forgotten, unloved parts of yourself. To love well, you must first sit with your own solitude and listen to what echoes there. Not distract yourself, not numb the ache, but feel what it means to be with yourself and not run. Can you sit in silence and not panic? Can you face your wounds without needing someone to make them disappear? That is the first sign of wholeness, the willingness to witness your own suffering without outsourcing your healing to someone else. Most people look for love with fragments of themselves. They show only the polished parts, the curated self. But intimacy is not born from perfection, it is born from truth. If you are disconnected from your own essence, if you deny your shadows, then the love you give will be filtered through your fear. It will be a performance, not a communion. True love arises when 2 individuals have walked into their own depths, met their demons, grieved their illusions, and chosen to live authentically. Only then can they recognize each other not as saviors, but as companions on the journey. When you are whole, love is no longer about filling an absence. It becomes a sharing of presence. You don't demand the other to make you feel worthy. Your worth is rooted within. You don't need constant reassurance because your foundation is no longer fragile. To be whole does not mean to be healed of all wounds. It means you have stopped running from them. It means you have made peace with your story. That peace becomes your gravity. It draws in love that is not chaotic, not codependent, not rushed or riddled with fantasy, but grounded, reverent, and real. Wholeness is the soil in which love can grow. Not a frantic love, not a temporary high, but something enduring, something sacred. And until you cultivate that inner ground, any love you try to plant will either suffocate from your fear or rot from your projections. But when you are rooted in your own being, love no longer feels like a risk. It feels like recognition, so turn inward, not to fix yourself but to reclaim yourself. Know your patterns, learn your language, breathe through your loneliness, and when the time is right, you will not have to search for love. It will meet you in the stillness. It will come to you. The other is always a mirror. Whether we recognize it or not, every person we draw into our lives carries within them a reflection of our own psyche, sometimes our light, often our shadow. We are not drawn to people by accident. We are magnetized by something deeper than the conscious mind can fully grasp. It is not merely personality or appearance. It is familiarity, resonance, something archetypal that stirs within us and calls us to attention. The people we love, the ones who trigger us, the ones who abandon us, even those we idealize, they all carry pieces of our own inner world. When we meet someone and feel that instant spark or deep pull, it is not just chemistry, it is recognition. The soul sees something of itself, something buried, something unresolved or long forgotten. This is why relationships are not just emotional experiences. They are psychological mirrors. The one who criticizes you may be pointing to the part of you that still doubts yourself. The one who makes you feel invisible may be reflecting the way you neglect your own worth. The one you obsess over may be the embodiment of qualities you've disowned: confidence, mystery, power, vulnerability. Every reaction you have is not just about the other person. It is a message from your unconscious. When we do not understand this, we fall into cycles of projection. We attribute our unmet needs, our inner conflicts, our unresolved grief onto the other. We expect them to save us, to fix us, to carry the weight of our unlived life. And when they fail to do so, as they inevitably must, We blame them, or we move on, only to repeat the pattern, until we realize it was never about them. It was always about what they awakened within us. The more unconscious you are of your inner world, the more likely you are to confuse your projections for reality. You will mistake fantasy for love, trauma bonds for fate, and dysfunction for passion. You will think the other person is hurting you, when in truth they are revealing where you are still wounded. You will think they are your home, when really they are the signpost pointing you back to the parts of yourself you have abandoned. But this is not cause for despair. It is an invitation. The mirror is not meant to shame you. It is meant to show you what is hidden, so that you might see clearly. When you begin to withdraw your projections, to take responsibility for your emotions, to see your partner not as a solution but as a reflection, then the relationship becomes sacred. It becomes a crucible for transformation. This is when love becomes real, not when it is easy, but when it is conscious. When you can say, "This part of me is showing up in you," or "I see my own fear in your distance," or "I recognize my longing in your silence." Then the relationship becomes not just a bond between two people, but a dialogue between two inner worlds. The other is always a mirror, but it is your choice whether you will look into it and learn, or shatter it in denial. When you choose to learn, the mirror becomes a gift. It helps you know yourself more deeply. It helps you love not from fantasy, but from truth. And in that truth, something profound happens. You stop needing others to reflect only your beauty, and you begin to value those who reflect your depth. Because in the end, we are not here to be completed by another. We are here to be revealed. And it is only when we are willing to look in the mirror that love becomes not a performance, but a path to the soul. Love does not belong to time. It does not operate on the same linear path that our minds are so accustomed to. It does not arrive when we expect it, nor can it be summoned by force or urgency. It comes in its own rhythm, its own language, often in the stillness between our striving and surrender. And yet, so many suffer in the waiting, believing they have been forgotten, passed over, or punished by time. But love is not something delayed. It is something prepared for. There is a deeper current beneath the ticking of the clock. A timing that is not mechanical, but soulful. This timing is not measured in hours, years, or milestones. It is measured in inner readiness. The psyche must be ripe before love can take root. If love came too early, it would collapse under the weight of our unhealed wounds, our unmet needs, our illusions of what we believe love should be. If it came when we were still fragmented, we would mistake intensity for depth, or need for devotion. And in doing so, we would sabotage what was meant to be sacred. To wait for love is not to be idle. It is to be transformed. It is in the waiting that we are refined, shaped by solitude, by longing, by heartbreak, and by the silence that asks us to become intimate with ourselves. Each day we spend alone is not a delay. It is an invitation to deepen, to shed old patterns, to untangle inherited narratives, to move beyond the desperation for connection, and toward a quiet confidence that love is not something we find, but something we make room for. But this is hard to accept in a culture obsessed with immediacy. We are taught to chase, to possess, to make things happen on our timeline. We are told that the absence of love means failure, and the presence of love means success. Yet real love does not submit to these definitions. It resists being manipulated or rushed. It cannot be packaged or predicted. Real love flows in when the psyche is aligned with it, not when the ego demands it. This is why love can come in the most unexpected of ways, through a chance encounter, a moment of surrender, a season of healing. It may arrive after years of solitude, or at the very moment we stop searching. Sometimes it appears in someone we overlooked, or in a form we never imagined. Because love does not follow maps, it follows meaning. It arrives when it can serve your evolution, not your comfort. And so, you must trust the unseen architecture of your life. You must believe that if love has not yet arrived, it is not because you are unworthy, but because you are still becoming. You are still weaving yourself into someone who can hold the weight of love with reverence. You are still learning how to love yourself without condition, so that when love does come, it does not frighten you or shatter you or disappear through your own self-rejection. There is no expiration date on love. No age at which it becomes less real, no timeline that determines its worth. Some find it early and lose it, others find it late and keep it. What matters is not when love comes, but what it finds when it arrives. Will it find you desperate or grounded? Will it find you clinging to a fantasy or rooted in truth? Will it find you hiding behind a persona or standing in your wholeness? To know that love does not belong to time is to release the clock from your chest. It is to exhale the pressure and inhale the patience. It is to know that your journey is not behind or ahead, but unfolding in perfect rhythm. Love will come, not as a rescue, not as a reward, but as a reflection of how deeply you have dared to meet yourself. So wait, but do not wait in despair. Wait in preparation, wait in trust. For love is not a race to be won, but a mystery to be lived. And when it finally enters your life, it will not feel rushed or late. It will feel inevitable. It will feel like the moment your soul had always been preparing for quietly all along. Your wound is the place love enters. This is not a metaphor to romanticize pain, but a deep truth rooted in the structure of the soul. What breaks you also opens you. What hurts you also softens you. And in that softening, you become permeable to something greater than protection, something greater than control. You become open to love not as a fantasy, but as a force that can hold what is raw, what is real, what is unresolved. We spend so much of our lives hiding our wounds. We mask them with busyness, with bravado, with distractions and false smiles. We learn early on to cover what is tender, to bury our pain beneath performance, to pretend we are invulnerable because the world told us vulnerability meant weakness. But the paradox is this: what you hide most fiercely is what longs most deeply to be loved, not fixed, not dismissed, but seen, felt, held. Your wound is not your failure. It is your portal. It is the place where your humanity reveals itself in its most honest form. It is the scar that says, I have survived, I have suffered, I have endured. And when you let someone see it, when you stop rehearsing perfection and start revealing truth, you give them a door into your soul. Not everyone will know how to walk through it gently, but the one who does, that is the one love will send. To be loved in your strength is one thing. To be loved in your weakness, in your grief, in your chaos, that is holy. That is the kind of love that transforms, not because it saves you, but because it witnesses you without turning away. And that kind of presence cannot be found through pretense. It can only be met when you dare to expose the very parts of yourself you've spent years trying to protect. This is why healing is not about becoming flawless. It's about becoming transparent, about no longer building fortresses around your wound but building bridges from it, about letting your broken places become meeting places. For when you have faced your pain, really faced it, you no longer need others to make it disappear. You simply need them to meet you in it, and that is what love, real love, does. It doesn't erase your wound, it enters it. And it sits with you there, not to rescue you, but to remind you that you are not alone. But you must go first. You must learn to hold your wound with tenderness, to speak to it with compassion instead of judgment, to stop seeing it as the reason you are unlovable and start seeing it as the reason your love can be so deep, so real, so unlike the superficial exchanges we've grown used to. The depth of your love is shaped by the depth of your pain. And if you've suffered greatly, then you have the capacity to love greatly. If you don't let the pain close your heart, there is a quiet dignity in those who have suffered and chosen to stay open. They carry a softness that cannot be faked, a gravity that draws others near. Not because they have answers, but because they have presence, because they've lived through the fire and learned how to hold space for others who are still burning. That presence, born from a wound, is the soul's gift. And the right person won't run from it. They will recognize it, they will honor it, because they have known that fire too. So do not curse your wound, do not rush to seal it. Do not believe it makes you unworthy of love. It may be the very reason you are ready to receive it, because in the end, love does not enter through the parts of you that are polished and perfect. It enters through the cracks, through the openings left behind by loss, by failure, by heartbreak. And when it does not demand that you be healed, it simply asks that you be real. Love does not wait for your perfection, it waits for your presence, and your wound, if you let it, will lead you there. You must be loved to attract love. This is not a call to perform affection or to fabricate kindness in hopes of being rewarded with companionship. It is far more profound than that. It is a call to embody the very essence of what you seek, to become so rooted in love that it emanates from you effortlessly, not as a strategy, but as a state of being. So many people search endlessly for love outside themselves, wandering from relationship to relationship, craving affection, validation, attention. They ask, why won't love come to me? But the deeper question, the one they often avoid, is this: have I become what I'm seeking? Not superficially, not in words or gestures, but in vibration, in presence, in truth. Are you carrying the qualities you hope to find in another? Are you offering the depth, patience, gentleness, and strength that you long to receive? We attract not what we wish for, but what we are. The world mirrors back to us our inner condition. If we are fractured, desperate, or manipulative with ourselves, we will likely draw in relationships that reflect that same imbalance. Not to punish us, but to awaken us, to show us where we have not yet loved ourselves fully, because true love, soul, deep love, cannot thrive in an environment of self-abandonment. It demands presence. It demands wholeness, and most of all, it demands authenticity. To be loved means to walk through life as an embodiment of compassion, not only for others, but for yourself. It means tending to your inner world with the same care you hope someone else will bring. Speaking gently to your fears, honoring your boundaries, nurturing your dreams. It means choosing not to betray yourself for the sake of temporary comfort or fleeting attention. It's not about being perfect. Love does not ask for that. It asks for honesty, for courage, for alignment. You must love your own solitude before you can truly welcome someone else into it. You must learn to sit with your own silence, your own mess, your own evolution, and still hold yourself with grace. Then, and only then, will love recognize you, not as someone in need of saving, but as someone ready to share in the sacred work of relationship. This inner transformation is magnetic. When you become love, you no longer seek to possess it. You are no longer addicted to the highs of infatuation or crushed by the lows of abandonment. You are steady, clear, sovereign, and from that steadiness, a different kind of love arises, one that is not born of desperation, but of resonance. The right person will not be drawn to your performance. They will be drawn to your presence. They will feel something in you that reminds them of home, not a place, but a state of being. You will not need to convince them of your worth. You will not need to chase. You will simply meet, soul to soul, because you have both done the work to meet yourselves first. To become love is to move through the world as a light that does not beg to be seen, but shines by its very nature. It is to stop waiting to be chosen and to realize you have already chosen yourself, and that choice, that radical act of self, love, is the signal that calls in something real, something reciprocal, something that does not drain you, but expands you. You cannot fake this. You cannot pretend to be whole while silently hoping someone will fill your emptiness. Life sees through that, so does love. The journey is inward first. Not to become worthy of love, you already are, but to clear away the noise, the fear, the conditioning that tells you otherwise. When you begin to live in alignment with your deepest truth, when you honor your voice, your values, your heart, love finds you. Not always quickly, not always in the way you expect, but in the way that will transform you. You must be loved to attract love, not by force, not by effort, but by being, by daring to live as though love is not something you need to find, but something you are here to give. And in giving it to yourself first, you will become the very magnet for the kind of love that doesn't complete you, but meets you exactly where you are, whole and human and ready. Love will come to you, not because you demanded it, but because you invited it through the refinement of your being. The task is not to find the perfect other, but to become the vessel through which love can dwell. Be still, go inward, let the unconscious speak. In that sacred silence, love begins its slow journey to you, not from the outside, but from the depths within.